The next thing we did in the moose case earlier is that we created another attribute which has some type. So let's look at the moose example again. What we had here is that we had a year attribute that would accept a number, an integer, and wouldn't accept a string. That's what the way we implemented is that just declare that we have a year and it was an integer, and we would get an exception, ugly but the detailed exception of what happened. So how do we implement the same thing with core Perl? The constructor doesn't change, but now because we haven't because we don't care what actual arguments the user is passing, we're not checking that. We added an additional subroutine. So this subroutine is almost the same, except of the die call here, and except of the fact that the name of the subroutine is the same as the name of the attribute. So here we have name, and here you have year. And if we didn't want to this extra check here, then we would just copy paste the whole thing and replace the values, which is not really what most programmers would like to have, but that's how it would work in core Perl. What you do here is, in addition to changing everything, we also added here the attribute checking, and we had to do it manually. So we added a die and a string, and then this is a really long one, so you don't see it on the screen. But it's I just put in the whole string that we had in the moose case. Probably, if you were really writing just core Perl version of this, you would have a much shorter explanation of what went wrong, because you wouldn't write all this text. And more than most of the code, as far as I could see, doesn't really check this. So even though you might expect just a number, in many cases people just neglected this check because they said, okay, it's in the documentation that you're supposed to give a number. And besides that, you would get a warning later on if you put here a number, a string, and then it would be used in a numerical context or whatever. But because we want to implement the same thing as in moose, we added this call. So this will throw an exception die if, and then we are using a regular expression, and I'm not sure that this is exactly the same checking that moose does, what int exactly means in moose, but this is a close representation of having only digits. The general idea is this, that you would put in die and the condition when you're trying to assign a value.